fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. In 1971, President Richard Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard, turning the U.S. dollar into fiat money, government money, fake money. In 2008, the world economy crashed when fake assets, fake mortgages, and fake financial experts led us down a path to ruin. Think about this. Why do schools choose not to teach us about money? Why are 78% of all Americans living paycheck to paycheck? Why are students staggering under $1 trillion in student loan debt? Because a fake world makes the rich richer and the poor and middle class poorer, and that's exactly how the government wants it. The only way to protect yourself is to learn how to separate the real from the fake. Go to richdad.com to get your copy of Fake by Robert Kiyosaki and learn how to spot the manipulation of reality we live with every day. Don't get fooled again. Get your copy of Fake by Robert Kiyosaki at richdad.com. That's richdad.com.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. This is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Our guest today is Mark Manson. He's the best-selling author, blogger, and internet entrepreneur. And he's the best-selling author of a book. I love the title, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. And I usually say that word a lot, but Kim is sitting here, so I'm not allowed to say it. A counterintuitive approach to living a good life, which came out in 2016. And his more recent book is Everything is Effed, a book about hope. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I sit there and I see a lot of nowhere men and women everywhere. Maybe it's a reflection of me seeing what, reflecting in the mirror. But I meet so many people whose lives are effed. And so today, if you're one of these people who's effed up in life, this is your program for you. And we have a fantastic author who's going to talk to you how to get un-effed. What do you think, Kim?
I'm excited because I want to start with the subtle art of not giving an F. But as you talk about, there's a lot of fake. I think with Robert, you're coming out with your new book, Fake. I think there's a lot of fake. And we were talking before we started the show about all the people that they go on Instagram and Facebook and they say, oh, look at all the thousands of friends I have. I have all these friends. And they don't have friends. They don't even know who these people are. But they have this, they've made stuff up in their mind that there's this delusion. People, I think, are delusional. And so we're going to figure out how to get past the delusion with Mark Manson. So, Mark.
So Mark, you can use the F word because I'm.
You can say whatever you want. But welcome to the show, Mark.
So, what's your motivation for writing these effed up books? Or books for effed up people?
Yeah, right. It's basically, I grew up reading a lot of self-help, and a lot of it, there were a lot of great messages about positive thinking and goal setting and things like that. But by the time I got into my 30s, I think I got caught in a lot of those traps, a lot of that fakeness that you guys were saying. And I figured that, we needed to have, as a culture, we need to have a very difficult discussion about what we value and what we are choosing to make important in our lives. And so I wanted to write self-help books around that. But since nobody will buy a book about values, I had to put the F word.
That's very smart marketing, yeah. I think. Everybody's got their handle, and yours is effed. That's pretty good. You now control that territory. So why do you think people? So let's go into the subtle art of not giving a F, a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. What was your message to people listening right now who think their lives are kind of effed up?
Yeah, and are you saying don't care? The subtle art of not caring, or what's the message?
So the message is basically you have to care about something. There's no such thing as not. And I think we all wish in our fantasies, we wish that we had a very carefree life and that nothing bothered us. But the truth of the matter is that there's always going to be issues in life. There's always going to be problems. And essentially we need to focus on choosing better problems for ourselves. Instead of running away from our problems, we need to
choose better problems.
Choose problems that
that's good.
Choose problems that benefit our lives.
Versus just doing all this stuff that's not important, that doesn't have any meaning, just doing, posting all your pictures on Instagram and worrying about all these little things. Are you saying you need to take on bigger tasks?
Yeah, essentially the argument I make is that if you're really unhappy with your life, it's not because you have problems, it's because you have bad problems. You have problems that are not adding meaning and purpose to your life. A good life is a life with good problems. One of the things I even say in the book is that, people without money suffer because they don't have money. People with money suffer because they have money. The suffering is always there. It's just that one set of problems is much more desirable than another set of problems.
I was just in Las Vegas at a Tony Robbins seminar, and he's got them all revved up. There's like 5,000 of them, and they're all jumping up and down and screaming and yelling and having a good time. What do you think of all that? I'm
not a huge subscriber to that. I think Tony does great stuff. I think there's a lot of good advice, but one of the things I'm a much more pessimistic person. I think humans by nature we're very flawed, selfish creatures. We're very irrational, short-sighted. And so while it often feels very good to get in a room and jump up and down and say that, you can do anything and you can accomplish your dreams and all this stuff, that feels nice. But at the end of the day, if you have bad dreams, then being able to accomplish them is not a good thing. And so I just take a much more pessimistic and cynical view towards our own minds and our own happiness.
Well, just
and I try. Go ahead.
Oh, FYI, when Tony first came out, Kim and I were living in La Jolla, California, and he came out and he was the hottest guy, and he was our partner for a while, and then we parted ways, because he was good stuff, and I learned a lot from him. But I tend to agree with you. I think one of the reasons people are not successful is because I don't think they're handling what they need to handle, first of all, in life. And you have money problems, well, that's your next opportunity. Can you handle that problem or not? And jumping up and down and high-fiving and feeling good is not going to handle it. That's kind of what happened for Kim and myself, and we went our separate ways. Kim and I learned a lot from him, right, Kim?
Oh, we learned a whole lot, and he's a great teacher, and he does a lot of great things for a lot of people. Just it's a different style, definitely. And so let me ask you, Mark, because you talk a lot about values, and values lead to meaning. Do you think with technology and internet and Instagram and Facebook and everybody's so busy on all these devices, do they even know what their values are?
I think a lot of us don't. I think it's a very difficult process because I think we all think we do. If you ask somebody, it's like, oh, what's most important in your life? They'll say like, my family and my friends and blah blah blah. But if you look at their behaviors, you look at their actions, if you look at their track record, most of us are not living up to the values that we aspire to.
Yeah.
And so. I think.
So let me ask you this question. Let's say somebody is a nowhere man or nowhere woman that's sitting here in a bad marriage or bad job or not making enough money or they're under mountains of debt or student loan debt and all this. And you're kind of anti the self-help movement or positive thinking stuff. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I describe myself as like a self-help for people who hate self-help.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yep. So if I can just get back to values for 1 second, because when Robert and I, early on in our relationship, we did this little process, and it was a great process for anybody who is going into partnership. And so what we did is we took a 3x5 card, and I wrote down my top 10 values, and then I flipped it over and I wrote what I thought Robert's top 10 values were, and he did the same, and then we discussed it. And when you say it's a process, so a few years ago, I went back to that list And my girlfriends and I went through and kind of redefined some of our values. And it was a process. And it took a few months, actually, to get crystal clear on what it is I stood for, what's important to me, what's most meaningful to me. It is a process. And why do you think people don't want to look? Why don't they look?
It's painful. It's difficult. Because you have to be honest about your own failures. And I think it's much easier to distract yourself with simple pleasures and, hits of dopamine from the internet and everything.
Robert's very proud of his failures. We'd learn from them. We discuss them. We put them in lights.
You gotta be. It's the only way you learn.
Are you one of these people, no pain, no gain?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a simplified way to look at it.
Right.
I think
we're a simple show here. That's why we do it.
I guess my argument would be no pain, no gain, but also just no pain, no loss. Like, even if you're not gaining, you're going to have pain, so you might as well gain.
Right. I agree. There's pain anywhere.
So what role does pain play in success?
I think it's necessary. I think success is a product of who is able to face and deal with their pain the best. I think the more we avoid our pain, the more fragile we become. More short-sighted.
Yeah, I've got an example. I was just at the gym yesterday, and here's this guy, and he's about 350 pounds, and he wants to lose weight. Mm-hmm. He wants to get fit, but he shows up once, maybe every 2 weeks.
Are you talking about me?
And he has excuses of why he can't do it, so he's not willing to face that pain. He's not willing to go through it.
Yeah, and it's the same true in business. The same true as in money. Like, it's painful. It sucks to put away like 20% of your paycheck every month. Like, that's not fun, but that is what gives you a stable financial life. It's true in business. It's true in everything.
One of the things I just read this morning is that it's what you react to is how big you are. Now, if you get upset that somebody's not doing something, that's very petty. And I think a lot of times people are in pain over little petty things that get in the way of the big picture of their life and things like that. So what is the art of not giving a F?
Well, I joke with people, everybody focuses on the F word in the title, but I always tell people, I say the most important word is subtle, because ultimately all these questions about values, what you're choosing to care about, what you're choosing to focus your time and energy on, these are actually very subtle questions. Our mind plays tricks on us. We're always looking for ways to avoid the difficult questions, and it requires like a consistent skepticism of our own thoughts and feelings to stay aligned with where ultimately like what's good for us.
Can you, when we come back, I want to ask you if you can give me an example of a nowhere man or nowhere woman, just to be politically correct here.
Sure.
But I was just reading this because I do a lot of self-help stuff. I mean, I like it. Mm-hmm. But I'm willing to go through, being a former, I am a Marine. They don't say.
But you go through the pain. You do your meditation every morning. You do all that stuff. We do the reading. We do the study.
And I go to the gym, and I hate it, and I hate writing books, and I hate dealing with idiots and all that stuff. But it's part of the process of growing. So I'm kind of the, you don't join the Marine Corps because you're a wimp, if you know what I mean. I knew. I joined them because it was going to be painful. That was the main reason.
Sure.
So it's kind of refreshing to hear somebody like you, especially of your generation and your age, saying the same thing, because I'm so sick and tired of everybody gets a trophy and don't say anything that hurts somebody's feeling and all this. I'm going, heck, when my feelings are hurt, I don't like it. But it's some of the best feedback I can get at that moment in time. So when we come back, we'll be talking more about a real person or an example of a male or female, or they're not looking in the mirror. They're not going through the pain. So all of you out there who are dodging the pain, like you're in a job you hate or a relationship you hate, or your kids hate you, or whatever the situation may be, that could be your best opportunity for success in life.
You're listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki.
Don't be like Charlie. Charlie is that do-it-yourselfer who does himself in. Do-it-yourself is good for tile and grout. It is not good for asset protection. Charlie thought he'd save a few dollars forming his LLC online. With no guidance, he did it wrong. When he sold the property, he lost thousands and thousands of dollars. He did himself in by trying to do it himself. Don't burn yourself. Use Corporate Direct to set up and maintain your LLCs and corporations. Corporate Direct is owned and operated by attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Garrett wrote the bestsellers Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. He is Robert Kiyosaki's attorney for asset protection. He and his team will do it right. Visit them at corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention Rich Dad and receive $100 off your formation fee. That's corporatedirect.com. corporatedirect.com.
What is your number one expense in life? Your number one expense. It's taxes. And I've asked the question is, how come there's no financial education in school, but why isn't there education on taxes either? You know, they tell you to save money, which is stupid. They tell you to invest in the stock market, which is stupid. But why don't they teach you about taxes? So here we have Rich Dad advisor Tom Wheelwright. We're talking about his revision for his book, Tax-Free Wealth. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Robert.
So what's the tax-free wealth about? What's different this time? It's a revised edition.
Well, so what we did was this is the first major tax reform we've had in 30 years, 2017.
Was 86 was the last one?
86 was the last one, back when I was in Washington, D.C.
So many guys got wiped out because of that tax change.
They did. They did. It wiped out an entire industry, savings and loans. This new tax law is just as big, but in a very different way. It affects different industries. You know, the tax law is always a series of incentives. And the question is always which incentives and which ones apply to me. And so the key to revising tax-free wealth was what changed so much in this new tax law that we can absolutely take advantage of. Seriously, the amazing incentives. For example, the bonus depreciation, for example, for real estate is unbelievable. You buy a $1 million apartment, get a $300,000 deduction or more the very first year.
So if you want to make more money and pay less taxes like Donald Trump and myself, get Tom's book, Tax-Free Wealth.
Log on to richdadradio.com while you listen. Now back to Robert Kiyosaki.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And today we're talking to all those people out there. It may not be you, but you probably have a brother, sister, or son, or a daughter, or father, or mother who is just nowhere. And they get up every morning, and today is the same as it was yesterday. And you know their lives are screwed up. So once again, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio Show anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android, and all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them for one reason, is so that you can listen to this program again, because we're an educational program. We don't sell or recommend any kind of investment. But when you listen to this program again, you will retain probably 70% more than you hear it the first time. But more importantly, I think this program is important to share with friends, family, business associates, and the losers in your life. It's a very important program because there's no scarcity of losers out there. It's just horrifying. Now all this, the left wing, Bernie Sanders running for president, he looks like a conservative. I can't believe they want free lunch, free food, free medical, free paychecks, free manicures, free pedicures. What has happened to this country? Where are we going? So our guest today is Mark Manson. I love the title of the book, Everything is Effed, a book about hope, out now, and the subtle art of not giving a F, a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. His website is Mark Manson, MarkManson.net. And this is a very important book, especially if you're tending to the nowhere man status. You wonder, why is my life effed? Any comments, Kim?
Well, I think this is a really perfect subject right now, because if you look at what's going on with social media and the media, and everybody's so engaged in all these devices that they're not taking the time to really focus on what's important to them, what their values are. And that's what Mark's talking about. So
if I got to add one more thing, we're talking about values, but the other thing I found out that makes a person successful is a thing called priorities. Can you get your priorities in line? And as we're saying, like Kim and I years and years ago said, let's make it a goal to retire young. So we have a book called Retire Young, Retire Rich, and all this, just so we can get on with our lives. And now, I just turned 72 in April, and I see people, they haven't even started to think about retirement. They got jack. They got nothing. Then I see younger people who are in their 40s and 50s. They're still not thinking. It's still not a priority. And there's one thing that I think we all know. Setting up for retirement takes time and money.
And effort. And as Mark says, struggle and pain. You got to go through it to get there.
Yeah, and so they're out there having a good time, but their priorities, I have an extra $100. I could do something. I think I'll go to Las Vegas with it. And their priorities are effed. Any comments on that, Mark?
Yeah, a lot.
We got 20 minutes. You can do it now.
So I think one of the biggest issues is that we tend to prioritize based on our feelings. So planning for retirement, it's anxiety inducing. It can be depressing. It's not fun. And our mind is always biased towards prioritizing what feels good. And I think we have to constantly counteract that within ourselves. And I think there used to be a lot of cultural institutions and traditions of helping people to push against their own, just indulging their own emotions. And I think a lot of what has changed today is that those restraints are being removed.
But
so the culture today is just if it feels good, go for it.
Yeah, but also I read that people have lost their resilience. If you say something that hurts their feelings, they attack you on social media, and so you can't.
Oh yeah.
The pain is now. Well, you said something that offended me. Their pain tolerance is so low. But worst of all, they take that pain, they attack everybody else. I'm not on social media. I am, but I don't pay much attention to it. They go out there and they attack anybody who hurts their feelings.
Yeah, I get it all the time. I just I sent an email out, and I have the F word in my book title, so obviously I have a pretty crass sense of humor. So I made a joke.
It offends me. It offends me, Mark. Jeez.
Yeah, I made a joke about a stripper in my email, and I got 40 emails of people telling me I'm immoral and I'm disgusting, and they can't believe I would say something. I'm like, what world are we living in? Can everybody relax for a second?
Hey Mark, the other day we had this woman who wrote a book on an economist walks into a brothel, and I told him the story. I told him the story of how I was sitting in this cat house in Costa Rica talking to Kim, and the emails flew. I said, what the hell are you doing in a cat house? I said, well, kind of looking around. I don't fool around. I like to go and look. And, oh, man, it's like their moral standards. I thought I was talking to the Pope or something.
So, and to that point, I think this goes right into what you're saying, is that people are focusing on all these little bitty, tiny things that really don't matter instead of looking at something that is important in their life or meaningful in their life that really matters, and they should get on with that and quit messing around with all the other crap.
So let me ask you this, Mark. This is your chance to pump your book. Again, this Everything is Effed and the Subtle Art of Not Giving It. What do you want? What is the benefit for all the people listening right now? Why should they read your book, especially if they are not, values are messed up and their priorities are out of sync and they're effed? Why should they read your book?
I think right now we're living in a culture of instant gratification. And I think it's affecting everybody. I think, I'm a younger guy. It probably affects my generation a bit more, but I think it's affecting everybody. We're putting too much emphasis on immediately feeling good and distracting ourselves to feel good. And basically my whole career is writing self-help and personal development books that help people confront painful realities that they need to confront. And we need more of that in our culture.
But what's different about your book? I mean, it's different in that you say, you're basically saying almost no pain, no gain, which I agree with, because I like pain. Because when I get through the pain, I've gone to another level of life. You know, it's like I hate going to the gym, but when I'm through, I'm happy. But most people never go to the gym, and they get unhappier. That's a real subtle example.
Well, and my first point would just be that you're going to have pain no matter what. So you might as well gain from it. You know, there's no avoiding the pain. There's always going to be pain. So you might as well pick good pain. But the other thing that I do that I think is very different than other people in the industry is that I come from a starting point. I have a very pessimistic view of human nature. I think we're just very irrational and flawed creatures, and we need to accept that.
You think
so
they're
that
effed?
We can counteract it. Well, yeah, we're totally effed.
Yeah.
We've always been effed. We've been effed since the beginning of time, and we're going to be effed forever.
So would you recommend that somebody give this book to their brother-in-law who's effed?
And here's what I understand in everything is effed is that people you say, you know, we have technology is people are healthier, living longer, economy's supposedly good, people are wealthier, yet everybody's effed. And they're angry and they're not happy and they take offense at the littlest thing. What the heck is what's going on?
Yeah. We live in a very strange time in that materially the world is the best it's ever been. Yet there's tons of data out there showing that people are more depressed, anxious, angry, upset than in generations. And so the book looks at what is it about our current technology, our current culture that is enabling people that is essentially just bringing out the worst in ourselves emotionally and causing all of this conflict all the time.
Well, you must have hit a nerve because you're an international bestseller, and you know a lot of people would agree with you that how can I be so unhappy when I have everything?
Yeah, well, part of the problem, you know, one of the first points I make in the book is that it's the better things get. So much of us feeling good and stable and healthy is having something to look forward to. And so when we're sitting, you know, in an air-conditioned room and we've got a nice big TV and, you know, we have like mocha frappuccinos delivered to our door with a click of a button.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It's hard to know what to hope for, what to pursue. And so that actually, it creates this discomfort and malaise within people. They feel like they have to invent problems where there are none in order to feel like they're accomplishing something.
And does it come down to the main point of they just don't have that meaning in their life? They don't know what's most important to them. So they're looking outside of themselves.
When you flood people with information all day, every day,
and
it becomes more difficult to know what's important than before.
You know, another thing you say, feeling high is not being happy.
Yes.
Is that why is that why the drug epidemic is so rampant now?
I think you're seeing it on a lot of fronts. I think social media addiction. There's, you know, people talking about porn addiction now. And then you have the opioid epidemic.
So they're looking for that adrenaline rush all the time.
Well, of course.
Yeah, and it's, you know, one of the things I talk about is there's a difference between happiness and highs, and I think our culture has started to confuse highs for happiness.
So
highs are easy to market. They're easy to sell to people.
So if everybody reads Everything is Effed and the Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, you'll explain the difference between happiness and highs?
Yes.
Well, that's a good reason to read your book.
There it is. But I do want to know, what's your definition of happiness?
So happiness is having something meaningful that you're pursuing day to day.
Yeah.
And the thing about happiness is that it's not always pleasant. You know, sometimes if you think about like raising a kid or building a business, like it's a very stressful, uncomfortable thing, but it's also what makes you happiest and most proud of in your life.
Yes, and because we talk about if you're building a business, you've got to find that purpose for your business and
Yes.
that purpose within yourself. Otherwise, you're going to quit when it gets hard. And I see a lot of people quit really quickly because it gets too hard. They have a setback. They can't handle it.
Because they're in it for the highs.
Yeah.
And the ego.
They're in it for the money.
The ego.
Yep,
and they're in it for
absolutely.
the money. Yep.
So, Mark, I congratulate you on your success. I'm glad you now control the F word, not me. You have no idea, Mark. I mean,
You're passing the torch, Ron.
I'm happy to have him pass that torch.
well, I went to a military school and then 6 years Marine Corps, and if somebody wasn't cursing me out, that meant they didn't love me. You know what I mean? And then I come out in society, I was like, "Oh, you hurt my feelings." I said, "That hurts your feelings?" It's like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thank you for, writing your books and giving a F for people. I think it's timely. I think it's important. And, like it's time to man up or woman up or something, get more resilient. Because I've never met such wimpy people in all my life. And I think
we really need to introduce some more grit and resilience into the culture, for sure.
Amen, brother. Amen, amen. So once again, it's Mark Manson. He's not related to the other guy, are you? Excuse me.
That's another podcast.
But anyway, I congratulate you on all your success, for giving an F and wanting to get people, to stand your ground, basically, because there's too much going the other way. Oh, you hurt my feelings, and you said something that offended me. And this is a point I don't want to say or do anything anymore. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
It's people.
Absolutely. I feel it too.
Yeah.
It's tiring.
What the hell are we doing is my question.
It's like, why are we responsible for other people's feelings? It's not my fault you're upset about something.
Yeah. And I wasn't pro the Civil. I liked the Civil War because I was a student of it, but now they're tearing down all these statues and all this. It's not going to change the war. It was a time. It was a time in history. But everybody's tearing down our past, trying to rewrite the future, and that's going to screw up our future.
Yeah.
We don't learn the lessons from our past.
It's a weird time, to be sure, and my new book is my attempt to kind of make sense of it.
Yeah,
and it's called Everything is Effed, a book about hope, and it's just out now.
So, Mark, thank you for writing your books and taking a stand. We support you, man.
Yep. Thank you, Mark. Great work. Keep it up, and look forward to everything you're doing in the future.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we'll be going to the next most popular part of our program. It's called Ask Robert.
You're listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki.
Don't be like Charlie. Charlie is that do-it-yourselfer who does himself in. Do-it-yourself is good for tile and grout. It is not good for asset protection. Charlie thought he'd save a few dollars forming his LLC online. With no guidance, he did it wrong. When he sold the property, he lost thousands and thousands of dollars. He did himself in by trying to do it himself. Don't burn yourself. Use Corporate Direct to set up and maintain your LLCs and corporations. Corporate Direct is owned and operated by attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Garrett wrote the bestsellers Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. He is Robert Kiyosaki's attorney for asset protection. He and his team will do it right. Visit them at corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention Rich Dad and receive $100 off your formation fee. That's corporatedirect.com. corporatedirect.com.
Financial freedom begins with financial education. Now back to Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Once again, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because if you listen to it again, your retention and your intelligence will jump at least another 70%. But more importantly is that you can listen to it with friends, family, and business associates and any nowhere men or women in your life and discuss it. Because it's a very important subject that our author, Mark Manson, M-A-N-S-O-N, and he's the author of Everything is Effed and The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, is talking about today, because there's too much PC. People are too, in my opinion, wimpy. They're just so wimpy. You can't say anything and you hurt their feelings. And I understand why. You got social media out there is pounding on people. You know, what happens in social media today, if they find out you don't like Trump, they'll send everything that'll keep you inflamed and you're upset about Trump. You love him. They'll send Hillary things or Obama things to you. And people are just so effed up. So that's why I think what Mark is doing is a very important book, is because there's too much turmoil. You know, it's really time to be calmer, more peaceful, non-reactionary. Any comments, Kim, on that?
Well, I thought it was a great show, and really when he talked about that people prioritize things and they base their values on what feels good in the moment. And I think that's part of the big problem, and not having that meaning or finding out what's most important to you and operating on really what your core values are versus posting a picture on Instagram and hanging out with all your friends, your thousands of friends who really aren't your friends. I mean, they've kind of created a fake world for themselves. So I feel like this was like a get back to basics and really get back to work.
So we're going into Ask Robert. You can submit your questions to AskRobert@richdadradio.com. We appreciate them because we want to find out what you guys are thinking. Please, what's the first question, Melissa?
Our first question today comes from Anna from the Bronx, New York. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. She says, I'm involved with the network marketing industry, and I really love the concept and want to always keep doing whatever I can to get out of the rat race. Sometimes, however, I get discouraged because so many people want success and money, but are not willing to do what others do. How do you suggest handling these people, meaning the others that don't want to do the work, but only want the rewards?
Fantastic question, and congratulations for being in that industry, because it's not about handling the other people. It's really about handling yourself. And if you can do that and keep going no matter what happens, you know, like Kim and I we were just studying the core of the ego with Eckhart Tolle. He says if you cannot react to it, you can just be calm to it. And I think that's the most important thing. It's like as a Marine and pilots, you know, when things got really bad, we had to get really calm, because if you reacted, you went nuts. I mean, you were not functioning. Any comments on that?
It's interesting that Anna talks about network marketing, because I was recently at a large network marketing conference, and almost every speaker, there was two messages. One was, the more people I serve, the more effective I become. And the second one was, how do you serve more people? How do you basically work your butt off to get what you want? And I spoke with many women who were at the top levels of their company, and these women work like crazy around the clock. There was no shortcuts. It's exactly what Mark Manson is talking about in terms of you got to get out there and you got to feel that pain and you got to go through the struggle. They're going through it and they're having huge rewards. But it is them taking the initiative, as you said, Robert.
But you got to learn to control yourself. You know, that's what Eckhart Tolle is about and all this. The reason I say congratulations is most of my friends are very tough people, men. You know, they're Marines or they're Mormon missionaries, and they're in network marketing. And what happens for most people, they choose the easy route. Mm-hmm. You know, how much money can I make? Can I just sit there at TSA and let people go past and get a paycheck? But the people who are the most successful have learned to deal with themselves. So, we have Tom Wheelwright, our CPA. He's the author of the book Tax-Free Wealth. He was a Mormon missionary in France, and he worked one whole year to convert, I think, one or two people only. Every day, taking no. And my best friend, Larry, you know, he was in Northern Ireland. He has the highest conversion rate of Catholics to Mormonism. And he's so extremely successful because they learn to deal with themselves. If you cannot, and that's Mark is talking about, if you let other people affect your life, the subtle art of not giving an F, you're not going to make it. You know, too many people are more worried about other people think of them than learning to control the internal reactions within yourself. I was just reading Tolle this morning. He says, you are the size of your upset. So like if somebody didn't deliver your paper in the morning and you're upset, that's how big you are. So people let little tiny things affect them. So the longer you stay in that network marketing business and keep taking those rejections, but learn to not get tougher, but learn to deal with yourself, the better off you'll be.
And I think, too, you hit it on the head when you say people are looking for the easy way. They're looking for the easy thing. And this even came up in the conference I was just at, that they say, well, everybody's looking to find that big fish, that person that has all these connections, instead of just doing the hard work every single day, meeting people, talking to people, doing what needs to be done. They're looking for the big aha. We have a friend who was always looking for that big real estate deal that was going to make him millions, and he never found it, but he never did the work every day that was necessary to where he could have been successful.
And he's broke.
He's broke today.
He's my age and broke. Mm-hmm. So keep up the good work.
Yep.
The most important thing is, it's like I write about in my book, Fake, is the day I lost my engine over the ocean. I went into the biggest calm I'd ever been in. And most people would panic. Like if you saw that movie, Sully, about, it's starring Tom Hanks, he just got calm. And if you can do that, life's going to be easy. But if you can't do that, life's going to be effed up. Next question, Melissa.
Our next question comes from Eddie in El Paso, Texas. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert and Kim, how do you both handle failure?
I think success is dependent upon failure.
That's exactly what Mark says, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason I don't think people should go to school, because most school teachers are so afraid of failing. That's why they hang out in academics. That's my poor dad. I grew up in a family of them. They're good people. They just can't handle failure. So my poor dad, he lost his job. He couldn't stand up. He ran for lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii as a Republican, which is not the brightest thing to do in the Communist Republic of Hawaii. But he ran for lieutenant governor. The governor fired him. And my father couldn't stand up. He had never failed. He had been an A student all his life. So the better you can handle rejection, same with the question to the woman with network marketing. When I came out of the Marine Corps, I took a job at Xerox knocking on doors. And you had to knock on 1,000 doors to get one sale. That's a lot of knocking. And it toughens you up. It makes you a better person, stronger, more resilient. Doesn't make you meaner. It makes you you learn with each failure. I mean, every knock on the door was a failure. But that's the way I looked at it. Any comments? You did the same thing with your little network marketing thing. Huh?
Yeah, I was in network marketing for a little bit, and I learned more about business in a year and a half than I did in 4 years of college. But the biggest thing was this whole thing about mistakes is that a mistake just shows you something you didn't know. It just shows you something you didn't know. And every successful person I have talked to, they talk about their mistakes. And somebody just the other day said, I don't learn anything from my successes, but I learn a lot from all my mistakes and my failures. And I think that's the key.
So right now, I'm starting another business. Am I going to fail? Yes. I look forward to it because that's how I'm going to learn. I want to keep doing the same old thing, That's good, but that's not me. So failure is how I learn. Next question, Melissa.
Our next question comes from Oscar in Las Vegas, Nevada. Favorite book, Unfair Advantage. It says, I hear you and Kim talk about how you feel that the coming economic crisis is potentially upon us. I'm curious as to how will our lives be affected if the U.S. goes bankrupt?
It's going to be exciting.
It's not going to be boring.
Well, just look at what's happening in Greece and Italy right now. You'll get an idea of it. Look at what's happening in Venezuela, Cuba, Zimbabwe, and Japan. Just look at those things and you'll see how they're surviving. Japan's doing okay. Their debt to GDP is now 220%. The United States is only 107% debt to GDP. When I say that the average guy has no idea what I'm talking about because they don't study this stuff. So what happens in an economy, once it goes past 60% debt to GDP, if the government doesn't make a correction, it continues on. When it passes 90% debt to GDP, it's irreversible. So now under Trump, because they give all these tax cuts to the rich, which I like. But anyway, at 109%, 107%, we cannot turn around. We're now going off the edge. So you may as well prepare for it. And so that's why I wrote the book Fake. The more you understand, if you believe CNBC and Fortune magazine and Money magazine and those guys, you're listening to people who actually profit from your ignorance. And that's your choice. That really is your choice. But I'd rather be prepared for the coming crash than pretend it's not coming. So I write about it in my book, Fake. We practice crashing every single day as Marine pilots. Every single day we had emergency procedures. So when my engine quit off the coast of Vietnam, it was like another day at the park. You just get calm, you go through emotions. If you've seen that movie about Sully Sullenberg, putting the U.S. air into the Hudson River, it was calm. That's the answer. If you're prepared for it, it's a wonderful experience. If you're not prepared for it, it's horrible. So really, that's what I have to say. I read the book Fake, look at it, fake money, fake teachers, fake assets, because they're all the same thing. They're all the same problem. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. That's why there's no financial education in school. And that's why the people that give you the financial education, the people that sell you stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs, you're being lied to. Thank you for listening to Rich Dad. You can submit your questions to AskRobert@richdadradio.com. Thank you to Mark Manson. Please get his book, Everything is F, and The Subtle Art of Not Giving, NF, because that's the future. Thank you for listening to Rich Dad Radio.